The shotgun blast echoed through the cornfields like God's own thunder. But it was just Daddy's old Remington slamming shut against the kitchen table, the barrel still smoking from the warning shot he'd fired into the ceiling. "Get the hell out of my house, you goddamn queer," Harlan spat, his voice a venomous rasp that cut deeper than any bullet ever could, veins bulging in his neck like rivers about to flood. Russell, 19 and trembling in the doorway, clutched Casey's hand so tight their knuckles turned white, the taste of stolen kisses from the barn still fresh on his lips, kisses that had just been shattered by his father's rage. Blood trickled from a gash on Russell's forehead where Harlan had backhanded him, the ring on his father's finger leaving a crescent moon scar that would never fully fade. "Pa, please," Russell started, but the words choked in his throat as Harlan lunged, grabbing him by the collar and hurling him toward the screen door like yesterday's trash. Casey, wide-eyed and frozen, finally found his voice. "Mr. Harlan, it ain't like that. We love each other, sir. We—" But Harlan's boot connected with Casey's ribs before he could finish, sending the boy sprawling into the mud outside, gasping like a fish on dry land. "You think this is some fairy tale, boy?" Harlan bellowed, looming in the doorway, his silhouette a hulking shadow against the yellow light spilling from the farmhouse. "In God's country, we don't abide abominations. Pack your filthy things and never come back. You're dead to me." The door slammed with finality, the lock clicking like a coffin nail, leaving Russell and Casey huddled on the porch steps under a sky heavy with unspoken storms, the weight of exile crashing down harder than the summer rain that followed. Russell wiped the blood from his eye with the back of his hand, tasting copper and salt, and turned to Casey, whose breath came in ragged hitches. "We gotta go," Russell whispered, his voice cracking like the thunder rolling in from the west. They stumbled down the gravel drive, the farmhouse shrinking behind them, a place that had been home for 19 years now reduced to a tombstone etched with rejection. The old Ford pickup Harlan had given Russell for his 16th birthday sat rusting by the barn, but Russell knew better than to touch it. Everything here was tainted now, claimed by a father's fury. They made it to the county road on foot, Casey's arm slung over Russell's shoulder, each step a stab of pain from the boot print blooming purple on his side. Headlights pierced the dusk as a semi roared past, its air horn blaring like a mocking laugh. "Where we goin', Russ?" Casey asked, his voice small, the golden boy of their high school football team reduced to this scared, bruised, and clinging to a love that had cost them everything. "Anywhere but here," Russell replied, pulling Casey close as they flagged down a passing station wagon driven by a wide-eyed farm wife who crossed herself at the sight of them. She dropped them at the Greyhound station in Decatur, 20 miles away, her parting words a mumbled prayer for lost souls. The bus to Chicago cost their last $20, scraped from Casey's glove compartment stash, and as it pulled out under the sodium lamps, Russell pressed his forehead to the grimy window, watching the flat Illinois fields blur into darkness. Harlan's face haunted him, the twisted snarl, the eyes that had once twinkled with pride at his son's straight-A report cards and quarterback dreams. Now, nothing but ash. Chicago hit them like a fever dream, all neon and noise, a far cry from the quiet cradle of Pearsonville. They crashed in a flophouse on the south side, the kind of place where roaches skittered like confidants and the walls thrummed with the moans of strangers. Russell lied about his age to land a busboy gig at a greasy spoon diner, slinging hash browns for tips that barely covered the rent on their single-room efficiency. Casey, still nursing cracked ribs, hawked his Letterman jacket to a pawnshop for seed money, Then sweet-talked his way into an apprenticeship at a auto body shop in Pilsen. His hands, those strong, calloused hands that had once thrown touchdown passes, now learning to weld metal back together. Nights were their sanctuary. In the sagging double bed, under threadbare sheets that smelled of bleach and regret, they'd lose themselves in each other. Casey's lips on Russell's neck, tracing the scar like a map to forgiveness. Russell's fingers threading through Casey's sun-bleached hair, whispering promises against the pulse at his throat. "We'll make it, babe," Casey would murmur, his breath hot and sure, even as the city chewed them up. Build something real. A life. And Russell believed him, because what else was there? Love was the only compass they had left, pointing north through the chaos. But Chicago's underbelly had teeth. 6 months in, Casey started coming home late, grease under his nails and whiskey on his breath, eyes darting like he was hiding contraband. Overtime, he'd say, collapsing into bed without a kiss, his body tense as a bowstring. Russell pressed, gentle at first. "Talk to me, Case." But the walls went up faster than Lake Shore Drive traffic. One night, after a double shift that left Russell's feet blistered and his pride in tatters, he found Casey in a dive bar on Halsted, laughing too loud with a crew of roughnecks. One arm slung around a broad-shouldered guy named Mick whose tattoos snaked like accusations up his neck. The betrayal landed like Harlan's backhand, hot and disorienting. Russell stood in the doorway, the jukebox crooning some Patsy Cline heartbreak, and watched Casey lean in, lips brushing Mick's ear in a way that twisted Russell's gut. "What the fuck?" The words escaped before he could cage them, and the bar went quiet, all eyes on the pretty boy with the farm-fresh face calling out his lover. Casey jerked upright, color draining from his cheeks. "Russ, it's not." But Mick was already smirking, clapping Casey on the back like they shared secrets deeper than diner coffee. The fight spilled into the alley, fists and accusations flying under the flicker of an exit sign. "You think I can just forget who I am?" Casey yelled, dodging a wild swing. "Out there in the shop, actin' straight all day, it's eatin' me alive. Mick gets it. He ain't ashamed." Russell reeled, the words slicing fresh wounds. "Ashamed? Of us? Of what we ran from?" He grabbed Casey's shirt, pulling him close enough to smell the betrayal on his skin. Cheap cologne and lies. "I gave up everything for you. My home. My family. And I gave up being normal." Casey shoved him back, hard enough to send Russell stumbling into a dumpster, the clang echoing like a gunshot. "You don't get it, Russ. This city's a meat grinder. I need space." He turned away, shoulders slumping, and walked back inside without another word, leaving Russell crumpled in the shadows, the rain starting up again as if the sky wept for fools in love. The breakup was uglier than the bottle of wild turkey they drowned it in that night. Casey packed his duffel at dawn, the clink of zippers louder than any goodbye. "I love you, man," he said, hovering in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed and pleading. "But I can't breathe here. Not like this." Russell, curled on the bed with a hangover pounding like Harlan's fists, just nodded, throat too raw for words. The door clicked shut, and the apartment echoed with absence, a ghost town of two. Russell didn't chase him. Pride, or maybe just bone-deep exhaustion, kept him rooted. He threw himself into work, bouncing from diner to warehouse, the scar on his forehead a badge he wore like armor. Chicago's gay scene flickered on the edges, Stonewall echoes reaching even the windy city. But Russell steered clear, nursing his heart like a bruise. Love had evicted him twice now. He wasn't keen on a third strike. Instead, he dreamed in fragments. Casey's laugh in the cornfields, Harlan's hand on his shoulder after a winning game, a life unfractured. Years blurred like rain on a windshield. By 25, Russell had clawed his way to a supervisory gig at a printing press in Logan Square, the kind of steady job that paid for a one-bedroom walk-up with actual heat in winter. He dated sporadically, bar hookups that fizzled by morning, a barista named Theo who baked him pies but couldn't fill the hollow in his chest. "You're holding onto a ghost, babe," Theo said one night, tracing Russell's scar with gentle fingers. Russell just smiled sadly and let him go. Ghosts were better company. They didn't demand you move on. Then came Eli. Not with fanfare or fireworks, but quiet as a library whisper. Russell volunteered at a youth center in Boys Town, the kind of place that patched up queer kids tossed like yesterday's news, echoes of his own 19-year-old self. Eli was 14, all gangly limbs and defiant eyes, dropped off by a social worker after his aunt in Gary shipped him out for acting funny with the neighbor boy. "They say I'm broken," Eli muttered on their first intake, staring at his sneakers like they held the answers. Russell knelt to his level, heart twisting. "Nah, kid. World's the broken one. We're just the glue." Mentoring Eli turned into fostering him, then adopting, the paperwork a marathon of home visits and psych evals that tested Russell's resolve. But holding Eli's hand through his first Pride parade, watching the kid's face light up under the rainbow flags, that was worth every stamped form. Eli called him Dad, tentatively at first, then with the fierce loyalty only a rescued soul can muster. "You're my hero, Dad," he'd say, hugging Russell after a nightmare, his small frame fitting perfectly against the man who'd once been so small himself. Life settled into a rhythm. School runs in Russell's beat-up Civic, pancake sundaes with extra syrup, Eli's soccer games where Russell cheered louder than anyone. The scar faded to silver, a story Eli knew by heart. The day Grandpa Harlan tried to break you, but you got unbreakable instead. Russell never spoke ill of Harlan. What was the point? The old man was a black hole, sucking light from the past. But Eli's curiosity burned bright. "What if he changes his mind? What if he wants to know me?" Eli asked once, 9 years old and wise beyond his scars. Russell ruffled his hair. "Then we'd cross that bridge, buddy." But bridges gotta be built from both sides. The letter arrived on a Tuesday in October, crisp as the falling leaves outside their apartment window. Russell slit the envelope with a butter knife, expecting bills, but the return address stopped him cold. Harlan J. Whitaker, Pearsonville, L. His hands shook as he unfolded the lined notebook paper, the handwriting crabbed and familiar. "Russell, I ain't much for words. You know that. Cancer's eaten me up. Doc says 6 months if I'm lucky. Farm's going to your cousin Dale. But this ain't about dirt. It's about blood. I seen your picture in the Decatur paper, adoptin' that boy. Eli. Looks like you at that age. Strong chin. I was wrong, son. Dead wrong. Don't deserve forgiveness, but if there's a scrap left in you, come see your old man before the Lord calls collect. No promises. Just come." The paper blurred as tears hit the ink, smudging the paw into oblivion. Russell sat at the kitchen table, the clock ticking like a bomb. 20 years. 2 decades of silence, punctuated only by the ache in his chest on Father's days. Harlan, dying. Begging for a bridge. Russell's first instinct was to burn it, watch the flames devour the past. But then Eli burst through the door, backpack swinging, all after-school energy. "Dad, guess what? I scored the winning goal in gym." His grin faltered at Russell's face. "You okay?" That night, over meatloaf and mashed potatoes, Russell told him. Eli listened, fork poised midair, eyes wide as harvest moons. "We gotta go," he said simply, when the story ended. Family's family, right? Even the busted ones. Russell wanted to argue, protect his boy from the man who'd shattered him, but Eli's hand on his arm was steady. "You taught me that glue. Let's fix it." The drive back to Pearsonville was a time machine in reverse, the flatlands unfolding like an old quilt stitched with memories. Eli chattered to fill the silences, pointing out silos and asking about Casey's ghost stories from the fields. Russell gripped the wheel, the scar itching under his collar. What if Harlan hadn't changed? What if this was just deathbed theater? A final twist of the knife? The farmhouse loomed unchanged, sagging under kudzu and regret. The porch where it all ended now weathered gray. Harlan sat in a rocker, thinner than a rail, oxygen tube snaking from his nose to a tank that hissed like accusations. His eyes, milky with age, sharpened on Russell. "Boy," he rasped, voice a gravel whisper. "No, son. Not yet." Russell swallowed, Eli's hand warm in his. "Pa." The word tasted foreign, like biting into spoiled fruit. Harlan's gaze flicked to Eli, and something cracked in the old man's facade. A flicker of wonder, or maybe just pain. "This the boy, Eli," Russell said, nudging him forward. "My son." Eli stepped up, unhesitant, and before Harlan could muster a word, the kid wrapped his arms around the frail shoulders in a hug fierce and unyielding. "Hi, Grandpa. Dad says you make the best cornbread. Can I learn?" Harlan froze, arms hovering like he forgot how to hold. Then, slow as dawn, they folded around Eli, the oxygen tank wheezing in protest. A sob escaped the old man, raw and unfiltered, shaking his frame. Russell watched, chest tight, as the rain began to patter on the tin roof. Same storm, different season. Betrayal's echo, but softer now. Forgiveness wasn't a word. It was this: a boy's arms bridging chasms no man could cross alone. The hug lingered, Harlan's knobby hands patting Eli's back awkwardly, like he was handling fragile china after years of wielding hammers. "Cornbread. Ha!" he croaked finally, pulling back to squint at the boy through rheumy eyes. "Reckon I got a recipe or two left in these old bones." Eli beamed, oblivious to the undercurrents, chattering about Chicago pizza versus Midwestern pie while Russell hung back, arms crossed, the porch steps creaking under his weight. The air smelled of damp earth and diesel from the distant tractor, a scent that clawed at buried things. Summers baling hay, winters stoking the wood stove, a life before the shotgun's roar. Inside, the farmhouse was a museum of stagnation. Yellowed curtains, formica counters scarred from decades of suppers, Harlan's recliner indented like a throne of solitude. A nurse from the hospice service bustled in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish rag, her name tag reading Marge, God's hands. "Family?" she asked, eyeing Russell with a mix of pity and appraisal. He nodded curtly, helping Harlan shuffle to the table where a pot of coffee steamed, black as Harlan's moods used to be. Eli dove into the meal like it was a feast. Canned chili and saltines, the best Harlan could manage these days, while the men circled each other like wary dogs. "Dale's comin' tomorrow," Harlan said, stirring sugar into his mug with trembling hands. "Sign over the deed. You want anythin'? Toolshed's still yours." It was an offering, olive branch wrapped in barbed wire, and Russell bit back the urge to laugh. Toolshed? The man thought a rusty wrench set could atone for 2 decades of erasure? "Nah," Russell replied, voice even. "Keepsakes ain't my style." Eli shot him a look. "Easy, Dad," and Russell softened, ruffling the boy's hair. Harlan watched the gesture, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "Boys got your fire," he muttered. Stubborn as a mule. The afternoon unfolded in fits. Eli exploring the barn, unearthing rusted treasures like a pirate's map, while Russell and Harlan sat on the porch, the oxygen tank a constant companion. Words came haltingly, like pulling teeth. Harlan spoke of the farm's slow death, droughts, bank loans, the co-op folding, and Russell filled in his blanks. The printing press promotions, Eli's straight BS, the quiet pride of building a home from scratch. "Never married," Harlan grunted at one point, glancing sidelong. "Figured that much." Russell's jaw tightened, the scar pulling taut. "Yeah. Figured you'd disapprove." Silence stretched, broken only by Eli's whoops from the fields. Harlan coughed, a wet rattle that spoke of deeper decays. "Seen things on the TV. Gays in the military now. Weddin's and such. World turned upside down." He paused, fingers drumming the armrest. "I turned it upside down first, didn't I?" The admission hung there, raw as an open wound. Russell stared at the horizon, where the sun dipped low, painting the silos gold. "You did more than that, Pa. You buried me alive." The words landed heavy. No venom, just truth worn smooth by time. Harlan winced, clutching his chest. "Bible said." "Bible says a lot," Russell cut in, sharper than intended. "But it don't say squat about a father choosin' hate over his blood." Marge appeared then, meds tray in hand, diffusing the tension with brisk efficiency. "Time for your nap, Harlan." He grumbled but obeyed, shuffling off with a last look at Russell, pleading, almost childlike. Eli returned dusty and exhilarated, a stray kitten in tow. "Look, Dad." She was in the hayloft, all alone. Russell knelt, scratching the tabby's chin, envy twisting in his gut at the ease of it, rescue without repercussions. That night, they bunked in Russell's old room, the twin bed creaking under their shared weight. Eli's snores a bomb against the ghosts in the walls. "He's tryin', Dad," Eli whispered before sleep claimed him. "Grandpa, give him a shot." Russell lay awake, sealing cracks mapping old heartbreaks. "Tryin'?" Harlan's letter had been a Hail Mary, but this, the hug, the halting talk, was something else. Or was it? Dawn brought doubts, and with it, Casey's shadow creeping back unbidden. The knock came mid-morning, sharp as the judge's gavel. Russell opened the door to a stranger in a deputy's uniform, hat in hand, mustache trimmed like a 70s cop show. "Russell Whitaker? Got a message from the station in Decatur. Fella name of Casey Malone. Says he's in town. Heard about Harlan." Wants to see you. Bad. The name hit like a sucker punch. Stealing breath. Casey. Here, after 15 years of radio silence. Postmarked only by a Christmas card once. Scribbled miss you, bro, with no return address. Russell's pulse thrummed. A traitorous quicken. Tell him I'm busy. But the deputy lingered, shifting uncomfortably. He don't look busy, sir. Waitin' in the cruiser. Rough shape, says it's urgent. Eli peered from the kitchen, curious. Harlan, propped in his chair with the paper, froze mid-sip. Malone? He rasped, eyes narrowing. That pansy who? Language. Pa. Russell snapped, but the old man just harumphed. Against better judgment, or maybe none at all, Russell stepped out, the screen door banging behind him like fate's exclamation point. Casey unfolded from the back seat, taller than memory, broader, but the eyes, those lake blue eyes, unchanged, crinkled now at the corners with laugh lines or worry, hard to tell. His hair, once a surfer's mop, was cropped military short, gray threading the temples. Jeans faded, flannel shirt untucked, boots scuffed from lives lived hard. Russ, Casey breathed, voice gravelly from smokes or shouts, stepping forward like he might bridge the gulf with sheer will. Russell held up a hand, palm out. Don't. The word was a wall, but Casey's face crumpled anyway, the years etching regret deeper than any alley fight. I saw the obit sketch in the AG paper, Casey said, hands shoving into pockets. Harlan. Figured. Hell, I had to come. For you. He glanced at the house, where Eli's face pressed against the window, a silhouette of innocence. That's your boy? Damn, Russ. You did good. The praise stung. Unsolicited grace from the man who'd walked away. What do you want? Case. Closure? A do-over? Russell's voice cracked, the scar burning. Casey's jaw worked, Adam's apple bobbing. I was a coward. Chicago broke me us. Mick was a mistake, a crutch. I bounced around, Detroit, Nashville, even Cali for a spell. Mechanic shops, bars, bad decisions. Then AA, therapy. Figured out I was runnin' from myself more than you. Russell laughed, bitter as black coffee. And now, when Pa's dyin', you show up like the prodigal asshole. The deputy cleared his throat. Tactful retreat to the cruiser. Casey winced. Fair. But I ain't here for pity. Heard whispers you fosterin' kids like us, givin' 'em what we never had. That's heroic, man. I got stories too. A nephew, queer as a $3 bill, got kicked out last year. Reminded me of the barn. You and me. Sent him your way. Anonymous. Figured you'd know what to do. The revelation landed soft. A thread weaving back to now. Eli, Casey's indirect gift? Russell's walls trembled. Why now? 'Cause life's too short for more regrets, Casey said simply, eyes locking on. And 'cause I never stopped lovin' you, Russ. Not the way you think. As a friend, if that's all. But if there's room. He trailed off, vulnerability hanging like mist. From the porch, Eli called out, Dad? Soup's on. Harlan's voice grumbled behind. Tell that Malone fella to get in here if he's eaten. Russell blinked, the absurdity hitting. The man who'd banished him inviting the catalyst? Cancer's cruel joke. Or Grace's sly hand, Come on, Russell said finally, jerking his head toward the door. But don't think this fixes shit. Casey nodded, a ghost of a smile. Wouldn't dream of it. Lunch was a minefield masked as civility. Eli's chatter the diffuser, Harlan's grunts the shrapnel. Casey spun yarns about his travels, editing the grit for young ears, while Russell picked at his bowl, pulse erratic. Under the table, Casey's boot nudged his, not deliberate, or maybe it was, and memory surged, tangled sheets, whispered vows. Betrayal's scar ached, but softer now, cauterized by time. Afternoon brought rain, sheets lashing the windows like accusations. Harlan napped. Marge herded Eli to the TV for cartoons, leaving Russell and Casey alone in the parlor, the space between them thick as fog. I thought about you every damn day, Casey admitted, perched on the sofa's edge. Wrote letters I never sent. One time, drove by your old place in Chicago, saw the light on, chickened out. Russell leaned against the mantel, arms crossed. I rebuilt without you. Eli. He's my world. Don't need ghosts rattling chains. But his voice lacked conviction, the pull undeniable. Casey's hand reached out, hesitant, fingers brushing Russell's wrist. Not a ghost. Just a man who fucked up. If you want me gone after this, I'll go. But let me help. With Harlan. With whatever. The touch ignited, a spark to dry tinder. Russell pulled away, but not before Casey's thumb traced the scar, gentle, knowing. You kept it, Casey murmured. Proof you survived me. Proof I survived us, Russell corrected, but the heat in his chest betrayed him. Rain drummed a staccato rhythm, urging secrets. They talked then, really talked, for the first time in years. Casey's wanderings, bar fights in Memphis, a near-miss OD in LA, finding AA in a Tulsa basement where a drag queen sponsor taught him self-love. She said, honey, you can't pour from an empty cup. Took me losing you to fill mine halfway. Russell shared too. The youth center, Eli's first crush panic, the quiet terror of single fatherhood. Thought I'd end up like Pa Hard, alone. But Eli. He softened the edges. Casey's laugh was low, familiar. You were always the soft one. That's why I fell. The word fell hung, a cliff edge. Russell stepped closer, drawn by gravity. Don't, he warned, but his hand cupped Casey's jaw, thumb on the stubble. Eyes met, blue on hazel, and the kiss came inevitable as breath, slow, searching, tasting of salt and second chances. Casey's arms encircled him, pulling flush, and Russell melted, years dissolving in the press of bodies. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It was reckoning, raw and real. Eli's giggle from the kitchen shattered it, Marge's storytime interlude. They broke apart, flushed, Casey wiping his mouth with a sheepish grin. Worth the wait, Russell punched his arm. Light. Jury's out. Malone. Evening brought Harlan awake, cranky but clearer-eyed. Over checkers, Eli versus Casey. Russell referee, the old man watched, oxygen hissing. Malone, he said abruptly, mid-game. You the one got my boy in trouble? Casey stilled, pawn hovering. Eli glanced up, sensing storm. Mr. Harlan. But Harlan waved him off. Gaze steady. Trouble finds its own. But you stuck by him after. That counts. The concession stunned. A crack in granite. Casey nodded, throat working. Tried to, sir. Failed some. But yeah. Night fell heavy, the house settling like a sigh. Russell tucked Eli in. The kitten curled at his feet, then joined Casey on the porch. Beers cracked from Harlan's fridge, Miller Lite, cheap and cold. Stars wheeled overhead, indifferent witnesses. Stay, Russell asked, the word slipping free. Casey's hand found his, lacing fingers. Long as you want me. Inside, Harlan called faintly, Russ. They entered to find him struggling upright, face ashen. Marge was off duty. Panic flared. Pa, Russell rushed, easing him back. But Harlan gripped his arm. Fierce. Proud of you, son. For the boy. For you. The words gurgled, eyes glazing. Casey's steady presence at Russell's side. Eli peeking from the Hall family, fractured but forming. Harlan slipped into sleep, monitors beeping steady. Russell exhaled, the weight lifting fractionally. Betrayal's echoes faded, drowned by this hands held, a son's hug, love's stubborn return. The rain eased to drizzle, promising clear skies. Dawn broke gray and grudging, the kind of Midwest morning where fog clings to the fields like regret refusing to lift. Russell woke to Eli's whisper, Dad, Grandpa's making noises, and bolted to the bedroom, heart hammering a prelude to loss. Harlan lay still, chest rising shallow, the oxygen tank depleted to whispers. Casey was already there, fiddling with the gauge, his mechanic's hands steady where Russell shook. Called Marge, Casey said, voice low. She's comin'. Hold on. Old timer. Marge arrived in a flurry of scrubs and 4 bags, stabilizing the crisis with clinical calm while Eli hovered in the doorway. Kitten clutched like a talisman. Is he dying now? The boy asked, voice small but unflinching. Russell pulled him close, chin on Eli's crown. Not yet, buddy. Fighters like Grandpa don't quit easy. Harlan's eyes fluttered open then, locking on Eli with a ghost of a smile. Come here. Sport. The boy approached, perching on the bed's edge, and Harlan's hand, veins like river maps, patted his knee. You play ball? Your dad was hell on the gridiron. Eli nodded eagerly. Soccer. Mostly. But Dad says I got your throw-in arm. Harlan chuckled. A wheeze. Damn straight. Teach you the spiral sometime. The moment stretched, tender as new corn silk, before pain twisted his features. Marge shooed them out, promising rest, but Harlan's grip lingered on Russell's sleeve. Don't go far, son. Breakfast was subdued, canned peaches and toast in the kitchen, Casey's stories of road trip diners lightening the air. Eli laughed at the tale of a Vegas wedding chapel mishap, hitched to a showgirl by accident, and Russell caught himself smiling, the domesticity surreal. Casey, here, fitting like a puzzle piece long lost. But under it, currents swirled. Harlan's confession pending, Casey's kiss a question mark, the farm's shadow pressing. Dale arrived mid-morning, Cousin Dale in his pressed khakis and realtor smile, briefcase of legalese in hand. The lawyer type, all efficiency, but his eyes softened on Russell. Heard the news. Sorry, cuz. They gathered in the parlor, Harlan propped on pillows, Marge overseeing like a sentinel. Signatures scratched across papers, the farm to Dale, a small trust for Eli, for college. Boy, don't squander it. And a codicil, to Russell James Whitaker, my son, all forgiveness I got left. Use it wise. Harlan's voice cracked on the last, eyes meeting Russell's across the room. Dale cleared his throat. Awkward bridge. Uncle Harlan's been plannin' this. Therapy, even. After the diagnosis. Therapy, the old man. In sessions, Russell blinked. The image absurd, Harlan on a couch, unpacking shotgun sins. Said it was time to square the ledger. Dale added, folding docs. Before the Reaper calls, the reading done, Dale retreated to town for errands, leaving the house to simmer. Harlan demanded a walk. Will me out, Malone. And Casey obliged, pushing the chair down the gravel path to the barn. Eli skipping ahead with the kitten. Russell trailed, the air crisp with turned earth, memories ambushing. That first kiss with Casey, hay-scented and urgent, Harlan's shadow forever after. At the barn door, Harlan halted, gesturing Casey closer. You, he said, squinting up. Ruined my boy. Casey's face fell, but Harlan's gnarled finger jabbed, not unkind. And saved him. Reckon that's a wash. The absolution stunned, Casey's shoulders sagging with release. Thank you, sir. Means everything, Harlan grunted, waving it off. Ain't for you. For him, nodding at Russell, who stood frozen, throat tight. Eli, ever the catalyst, tugged Harlan's sleeve. Grandpa, show me the hayloft? Dad says that's where the magic happened. The boyish euphemism, Russell's sanitized tale of young love, drew a bark of laughter from Harlan. Magic? More like mischief. He let Casey hoist him up the ladder, a Herculean effort that left them all breathless, then settled on a bale. Eli nestled beside. Stories flowed then. Harlan's wild youth, bootlegging runs during Prohibition, Casey's football glory days, the '89 championship, Russell's omissions, the Chicago years a gloss of survival. Lunch beckoned, but Harlan tired quick, Marge bundling him back for meds. Alone with Casey in the kitchen, Russell cornered him against the counter, hands on hips. What are we doing? The question hung, laced with fear. Casey's palms cupped his face, thumbs stroking scars. Livin', Russ. Finally, the kiss was deeper this time, unhurried, tongues mapping familiar territories with new gratitude. Eli's whoop from the parlor, gross, broke it, laughter bubbling up, a family's first shared joke. Afternoon waned in quiet labors, weeding the herb garden, Eli's small hands beside Harlan's gnarled ones, Casey oiling the old tractor under Russell's watchful eye. Miss this? Casey asked, wiping grease on his jeans. Russell leaned on the fender, watching Eli chase fireflies early. The work? Nah. The possibility? Yeah. Casey's grin was boyish, pulling him into the cab for a stolen moment. Lips on neck, hands wandering, the engine's ghost humming approval. Dusk brought storm clouds, thunder rumbling like unresolved sins. Over pot roast, Marge's contribution, the talk turned heavy. Harlan, fortified by painkillers, fixed Russell with a stare. That night, he started. Fork paused. Shotgun. I scared myself more than you. Woke up sweatin', dreamin' of your ma cryin'. She knew. Why see? About you and him. A nod to Casey, who stilled. Begged me to wait. Pray on it. But pride's a devil, son. Ate me hollow. Russell's fork clattered. Eli's eyes wide. Ma. She never said. Harlan's laugh was bitter. She wrote you letters. Burned 'em after she passed. Said you deserved a clean break. The revelation gutted. A fresh layer to the grief Russell had buried with her cancer obituary. Unread till years later. Why tell me now? 'Cause dyin' sharpens sight, Harlan said simply. Seen the news? Obergefell. Rainbows everywhere. My church still thumps the book. But I reckon God's bigger than that. You built a life, Russ. With heart. That's the real gospel. Tears tracked Harlan's cheeks. Unashamed. Eli slid from his chair, hugging the old man again, that hug. Bridge eternal. Love you, Grandpa, the boy mumbled. Harlan clutched him, sobbing now. Love you too, Sprout. All of you. Night deepened. The storm breaking in earnest. Lightning fracturing the sky. Russell and Casey bunked on the couch. Eli in the guest room. Bodies entwined under a quilt stitched by Harlan's ma. This real, Russell whispered. Casey's heartbeat steady under his palm. Real as rain, Casey murmured, kissing his temple. Sleep came fitful. Dreams of shotguns turning to embraces. Morning dawned clearer. Harlan weaker. Marge's face was grave over coffee. Hospice says anytime. The words landed soft. Inevitable. They gathered round the bed. Eli with drawings of the farm. Casey with a pocketknife Harlan had admired. For luck. Russell empty-handed but full-hearted. Pa, he said, taking the clawed hand. I forgive you. Been carryin' that load too long. Harlan's eyes cleared. A final spark. Proud, son. Go live. His gaze shifted to Casey. Take care of him. A nod. Then to Eli, best of us. The boy hugged fierce. Harlan's arms wrapping one last time. Breath rattled. Slowed. Stilled. The room held. A sacred pause. Before Marge checked the pulse. Nodding. Gone. Grief crashed then. Waves on a levee. Russell's quiet tears. Eli's wails. Casey's arm steel around them. Dale handled the calls. Funeral home. Preacher who preached love over fire. The service was small. Pearsonville faithful. Wary glances at the city folk. But Eli's eulogy. Grandpa hugged best. Drew nods. Harlan's old crew toasting with flasks in the cemetery. After, the drive back to Chicago hummed with exhaustion and emergence. Eli dozed in the back, kitten purring, while Russell and Casey held hands over the console. Stay in Chi? Russell asked, tentative. Casey's squeeze was sure. If you'll have me. Mechanic job waitin'. Youth center volunteer gig your world. Russ. Home greeted with mail stacks and laundry. But warmer now. Casey's duffel in the hall a promise. That night, Eli tucked in with tales of Grandpa's hayloft magic. Russell and Casey claimed the bed. Bodies rediscovering rhythms lost to time. Slow, reverent kisses trailing scars. Hands mapping new lines of gray and laugh. Love you, Casey breathed, spent and sure. Russell, heart full, echoed it back. Months folded into seasons. Casey's shop apron beside Russell's press smock. Eli's school plays with two dads cheering. Pride floats where they marched hand in hand. Harlan's trust funding Eli's art camp. Betrayals healed to stories, not shackles told over beers, laughed at in hindsight. The scar remained, a tattoo of survival, but now kissed nightly, cherished. One autumn eve, rain pattering like memory, Eli hugged them both on the porch. "Family's the best glue," he declared, wise at 11. Russell pulled Casey close, watching their boy dash inside. Thrown out once, embraced forever, the American dream, queer and unyielding, stitched from storms. Winter gripped Chicago like a grudge, snow blanketing the city in hush. But inside their Logan Square walk-up, warmth bloomed defiant. Casey's arrival had transformed the space. Toolboxes under the kitchen table, a half-built birdhouse on the counter from Eli's man cave projects, flannel shirts draped over chairs like flags of permanence. Russell woke to coffee brewing and Casey's hum, some old Springsteen tune, Thunder Road, the irony not lost, and felt the ache of old wounds transmute to something golden, pliable. Eli thrived, his sketches of the farm evolving into a mural on his bedroom wall. Silos under rainbows, a grandfather hugging a boy, two dads silhouetted against city lights. School counselor meetings were a breeze now. No more solo parent side-eyes. Casey's steady presence at parent-teacher nights drew compliments. Such a supportive family, and Russell's chest swelled. Pride a quiet revolution. But beneath the domestic idol, undercurrents stirred. Casey's nightmares, thrashing from Detroit ghosts. Russell's flinches at loud doors, echoes of shotgun slams. Healing wasn't linear. It was a spiral, circling back to touch scars before ascending. January brought a call from Pearsonville. Dale, voice thick with news. "Harlan left a box for you, Russ. In the attic. Said to wait till. Well, now." The drive south was a pilgrimage. Eli bundled in the back, Casey at the wheel, the Civic's heater wheezing like an old friend. The farm, under Dale's stewardship, bustled with new life, solar panels glinting, a community garden sprouting. But the attic dust motes danced unchanged, thick with secrets. The box was battered cardboard, labeled "ours shit" in Harlan's scrawl, taped with yellowing evidence. Inside, Russell's high school yearbook, dog-eared at the football pages. A stack of letters, Ma's handwriting looping graceful. "My dearest boy, your pa's pride blinds him, but mine sees true. Love is love, always." A photo album, faded Polaroids of baby Russell in Harlan's arms, grins wide as fields, and at bottom, a small velvet pouch. Russell's breath caught his class ring, engraved Whitaker 04, pawned in Chicago desperation, somehow reclaimed. Eli fingered the letters, eyes misting. "Grandma sounds awesome." Casey clapped Russell's shoulder. "She was. Saw you clear." Harlan's ghost lingered, not vengeful but apologetic. The box a posthumous handshake. They left with it all, the attic light switching off like closure's click. Back in the city, the find catalyzed. Russell framed the album on the mantel, letters tucked in a drawer for Eli's later years. Casey's shop gig steadied, custom choppers for hipsters, tips funding date nights at dive bars where they slow danced to jukebox ballads. Casey's chin on Russell's shoulder, whispering, "This the life I dreamed in Nashville flophouses." But dreams had thorns. February's full moon brought Casey's confession over late-night whiskey. "Sit," he said, "on the fire escape, city lights twinkling below like fallen stars." Russell obeyed, sensing storm. That nephew I mentioned? Tommy. He's crashin' with a buddy in Milwaukee. But it's rough. Kicked out like us. Hitchin' rides. Dodgin' creeps. Casey's jaw clenched. Ghosts vivid. I want to bring him here. Summer. Maybe. Show him it's possible. Love. Home. All that sap. Russell's gut twisted. Eli's world. Their fragile normalcy. Invaded by another lost boy? But the scar on his forehead itched reminder. You were that boy. Okay, he said, squeezing Casey's hand. But we talk Eli through it. Team. The relief in Casey's kiss was fierce. Bodies pressing against the railing. Snowflakes melting on skin. Team, he echoed. The word of vow. Spring unfurled green and greedy. Eli's soccer season kicking off with Casey as assistant coach. Yells of Trap It. Whitaker. Echoing fields. Russell in the bleachers with thermoses of cocoa. Pride Month approached. The city pulsing rainbow. And they dove in, volunteering at the youth center. Eli designing buttons, love wins. Duh. A float entry where Casey welded a heart-shaped chassis. Russell printing banners. The parade was catharsis. Drag queens on stilts. Marchers chanting. Eli atop their shoulders waving like a tiny king. This for Grandpa too? He yelled over the bass. Russell nodded. Tears blurring. Damn right, kid. But climax brewed in quiet cracks. Late May. A letter arrived, no stamp. Hand-delivered to the center. Russell, Tommy's in trouble. Milwaukee PD. Assault charge. Self-defense. Come quick. See. Panic surged. Casey was at a parts run. Eli at school. Russell called in sick. Raced north in the Civic. Wipers battling a freak squall. Milwaukee's underbelly was grittier than memory. Harbor warehouses looming like judges. The station reeking of bleach and despair. Tommy waited in holding. 17 and shattered. Bruised jaw. Split lip. Eyes hollow as Casey's post-Chicago. Uncle Case said you'd come, he mumbled. Voice cracking. The story spilled. Bar scuffle with rednecks slinging slurs. A bottle broken over his head. Fists flying in defense. They called me faggot. Fought back. Russell's heart clenched. Echoes of alley brawls. Casey's ribs. The cop. A burly type with sympathetic squint. Processed release to kin. Russell signed. Guardian by proxy. Tommy's duffel light as his hopes. The drive back was silent storm. Tommy staring out at lake waves. Russell navigating grief's detours. Casey's waitin', he said finally. We'll figure it. Home was haven. Casey enveloping Tommy in a bear hug. Eli offering his room. Bunk with me. Dude. Dinner a chaotic council. Plans sketched on napkins. But night fell heavy. Tommy crashed on the couch. Nightmares jerking him awake. Russell and Casey trading shifts like sentinels. June's solstice brought betrayal's shadow. Not Casey's, but fate's cruel jest. At the youth center fundraiser, a donor speech turned sour. Local pastor thundering against recruitment agendas. Eyes on Russell's family table where Tommy laughed with Eli. Whispers spread. A board member cornered Russell post-event. This exposure, bad for grants. Tone it down. The ultimatum stung. Humanistic heart-clashing bureaucracy. Russell quit on the spot. Badge tossed. Walking out to Casey's waiting truck. Fuck him, Casey growled. Peeling out. We'll start our own. The summer pivoted there. Conflict forging fire. They launched Bridge Builders, a pop-up resource for kicked-out queer youth, hosted in Casey's shop garage, workshops on resumes, therapy circles, Eli's art therapy doodles. Tommy bloomed, apprenticing welds, his sketches rivaling Eli's. The boys bonded like brothers, fort building in the yard, Casey's stories their campfire lore. But Harlan's absence loomed, Eli's questions sharpening. Why'd he hate us, Dad? Before the hug, the query ambushed over ice cream, cones dripping in July heat. Russell faltered, Casey's nod urging truth. Fear, buddy. Grandpa thought love like ours broke rules. Took losin' ma, then time, to see it mends. Eli licked his cone, thoughtful. Like Tommy's bruises, hurt first, heal stronger. Wisdom from small mouths. Russell hugged him fierce, Casey joining, a huddle against the world's winds. Climax crested in August, a heatwave haze. Tommy's ex-aunt stormed the shop, Bible in hand, deputy trailing, custody claim, protectin' the boy from sin. The confrontation erupted. Her shrieks, Tommy's defiance. You threw me out. Russell's calm shield, Casey's bulk between. Fists weren't thrown, but words were weapons. Her abomination met with Russell's family. The deputy mediated. Papers signed, Tommy's choice, 18 looming, and she left defeated, tail between scripture legs. Aftermath was reckoning. Beers on the fire escape. Tommy's head on Casey's shoulder. Eli's guitar strums soft. Betrayal's a bitch, Casey said, arm around Russell. But we outlast it. The kiss that followed was salt-sweet, bodies aligning under stars, making love to cicada chorus, slow thrusts, gasps of mine, release a catharsis. Fall gilded edges. Tommy enrolling in community college. Eli's school year stellar. Bridge Builders grew. Grants from queer philanthropists. Harlan's trust seed money. One crisp eve. Rain-scented. They visited Pearsonville Dale's Invite. Harvest Festival. The farm glowed. Lanterns strung. Locals warmer now. Whispers of Harlan's boy done good. Eli danced with cousins. Tommy flirted shy with a farmhand. Russell and Casey swayed to fiddles, hands clasped. Under the harvest moon, by the barn, Russell pulled Casey close. Years later, and here we are. Casey's lips brushed his scar. Hugged the man who erased you, through our boy. Laughter mingled with tears. Love's full circle. Humanistic arc. Not perfect, but whole betrayals bridged. Hearts unthrown. Autumn deepened into November's embrace. Leaves carpeting Logan Square in crimson confessions. The air crisp with promise of change. Bridge Builders had taken root. Its garage headquarters a beacon, neon sign flickering come as you are. Walls papered with success stories. Tommy's welding certification. A runaway named Jack's landing an internship. Eli's murals inspiring teen artists. Russell helmed operations. His printing savvy churning flyers and zines. Casey taught life skills. His stories the glue binding fractured souls. Eli, now the unofficial mascot, led icebreakers with a confidence that humbled. What's one thing you're proud of today? His hugs disarming the most guarded. But prosperity's shadow was sustainability. Grants ebbed with election year politics. A new mayor's family values, rhetoric chilling donations. Board meetings turned tense. Russell advocating expansion. More beds. More mentors. Against fiscal hawks urging cuts. We're saving lives, he argued. Voice steady. Scar a silent testament. Votes split, compromise bitter, scale back, or risk closure. Nights, Russell paced the apartment, Casey's arms pulling him to the couch. We'll bootstrap, Casey murmured, fingers kneading knots. Like we did in that flophouse. The reassurance led to bed. Body's a refuge. Casey's mouth hot on Russell's chest, hips grinding slow, whispers of we got this climaxing in shudders. Eli sensed the strain, his perceptiveness a double-edged gift. Over Thanksgiving turkey, Tommy home from classes, Jack's joining as extended kin, he piped up, "If money's tight, I can sell my drawings." For the center, the table stilled, pride swelling. Russell ruffled his hair. "You're gold already, kid," but the offer lingered. Call to action. Post-feast, they brainstormed, crowdfunding campaign, hugs over hate, Eli's illustrations front and center, sketches of grandfathers embracing grandsons under rainbows, barns reborn as safe harbors. The push ignited, social media ablaze, shares from Boys Town influencers, a viral video of Eli's pitch. "My dad got thrown out, but hugs fixed it. Help us hug more." Donations surged. Stranger stories flooding in. "My son needed this 10 years ago." Harlan's legacy wove through, his trust amplified into scholarships. Yet conflict crested personal. Casey's ex, Mick from that Halstead alley, surfaced via Facebook. A friend request laced with apology DMs. "Heard you're domestic. Happy for ya. Owe you a beer?" Casey showed Russell. Screen glowing accusatory. "Block him?" Russell asked, gut twisting old. Casey hesitated, thumb hovering. "Nah. Closure's a gift." The meet was neutral. Diner on the edge of town. Russell babysitting nerves at home. Casey returned quieter. Mick's words unpacked over decaf. "He's clean now. Married to a guy, ironically. Said sorry for the wreckage. Felt human." Russell pulled him close. Jealousy a flicker doused by growth. "You chose us. That's the win." Their lovemaking that night was reclaiming. Fierce. Possessive. Casey's thrusts deep. Russell's nails raking back. Cries muffled in pillows. Betrayal's ghost exorcised in sweat. December's chill brought high drama. A winter storm stranded a kid at Union Station. Backpack clutched. Eyes wild 16. From Indiana Bible Belt. Fleeing conversion camp horrors. Bridge builders mobilized. Russell braving wideouts to fetch him. Named Leo. All sharp angles and sharper wit. Intake revealed layers, suicidal ideation. Family disownment via email. Choose Jesus or the street. Eli bonded instant. Sharing his room again. The boys trading comics and coping tales. But Leo's arrival strained resources. Bunk space tight. Therapy waitlists long. Pushing the center to brink. Climax unfolded New Year's Eve. Blizzard raging. The fundraiser gala at a rented hall in Wicker Park. Tickets sold out. Drag MCs roasting Pauls. Eli's art auction centerpiece. A canvas of the porch hug. Titled erased no more. Fetching thousands. Toasts rang. To bridges. Not walls. But midway. Chaos. Leo missing. A note scrawled, "Can't do this. Too broken." Panic rippled. Russell's heart seized. Visions of his own Greyhound flight flashing. Search parties fanned. Casey checking alleys. Tommy alleys. Eli calling shelters. They found him at the lakefront, huddled on a bench, wind whipping tears. Thought you'd all be better off, Leo sobbed. Russell enveloping him in coat and arms. Nah, kid. You're the point. Back at the hall. The crowd hushed for impromptu speech. Russell, voice raw. This is why, for Leo, for Eli, for the boy I was. Love doesn't erase. It rewrites. Cheers erupted. Pledges poured. The storm outside mirroring inner tempests quelled. Resolution bloomed in the thaw. Leo stabilized. Group therapy his anchor. The center expanded. A donor-funded house in Pilsen. Valentine's brought quiet romance. Casey proposing over farm fresh pie. Ring simple gold. Harlan's class band resized. Marry me, Russ. Make it legal. Eternal. Tears yes. Eli whooping. Tommy snapping pics. Wedding was spring affair. Backyard under blooms. Vows exchanged. In sickness. Storms. Second chances. Eli ringbearer. Leo best man. Jack's officiating in sequence. Years accelerated. A montage of milestones. Eli's high school graduation. Valedictorian speech nodding dad's unbreakable love. Tommy's shop ownership. Bridge builder's satellite in Milwaukee. Leo's psych degree. Counseling runaways. Russell and Casey's silver anniversary. 30 years since the barn. Dawned at Pearsonville. Farm now a retreat center. Dale's legacy. They stood on the porch. Rain light, hugging as thunder rolled distant. Thrown out, Russell mused. Casey's arm warm. But never down. Eli, now 24. Artist in Brooklyn. Video called. Hug for the road? Laughter. Love's loop complete. Humanistic close. Not fairy tale, but real betrayals to bonds. Erasures to embraces. America's heart queer and vast.